Hello and welcome to WION World is One. You're watching Gravitas with me, Hemkaur Saroya. Will WhatsApp leave India? And what happens if WhatsApp leaves India? These are questions we must ask tonight because WhatsApp is threatening to exit India. Listen to what it has told the Delhi High Court. As a platform, we are saying if we are told to break encryption, then WhatsApp goes. Quick background first. WhatsApp and its parent company, Meta, have moved the Delhi High Court. They are challenging the information technology rules that were enacted in 2021. WhatsApp has a problem with Rule 4, Section 2. What does it say? This rule says that social media platforms that are providing messaging services must allow for agencies to trace the origin of a particular message. Let me explain. Say if fake news is circulated on WhatsApp and it leads to clashes, people die, it becomes a national security issue. A case is filed. And when probing this case, the authorities need to trace the origin of fake news, in order to hold the culprit accountable. So the authorities need WhatsApp to cooperate and help the authorities identify the computer or the phone from which the particular message was sent. Now, WhatsApp has a problem with this. Its objection is threefold. One, WhatsApp says this law weakens encryption. You see, WhatsApp promises end-to-end encryption, meaning only the sender and the receiver can read the messages that they're exchanging. WhatsApp claims even its own employees can't read the messages or, for that matter, listen to WhatsApp calls. The company claims it also cannot access these chats. This rule would require it to break this encryption. Objection number 2 here then. WhatsApp claims the rule violates user privacy protection. Now, WhatsApp claims to be big on privacy. Some of you may have seen its ads. They tend to play on privacy. WhatsApp claims every message you send on this platform remains private and guarded by multiple layers of protection. In addition to that, WhatsApp lets you control who sees whether you're online or when you were last seen online. WhatsApp also allows users to lock their chat. It's now claiming that this provision in India's 2021 information technology rules violates user privacy. Objection number 3. WhatsApp claims the rule also violates the rights of its users. Reports say the messaging platform is citing Article 14 of the Indian Constitution, which guarantees equality before law. Article 19, which guarantees freedom of speech and expression. In its argument against the IT rule, WhatsApp is also citing Article 21, which guarantees every Indian the fundamental right to protection of life and personal liberty. That's not all. On top of all of this, here's what WhatsApp's lawyers have pointed out to the court. I'm quoting here. There is no such rule anywhere else in the world, not even in Brazil. We will have to keep a complete chain and we don't know which messages will be asked to be decrypted. It means millions and millions of messages will have to be stored for a number of years. So is the problem privacy and encryption, or is it a problem of data storage? Data storage, that can be expensive. The collected data is stored in servers. Numerous servers together make a data center. These data centers can be very expensive to build. A certain temperature needs to be maintained around the clock. These data centers need 24/7 internet. Meta knows this better than most. It has nearly 19 data centers in the United States alone. Some of these facilities, like the one in Altoona, Iowa, and Los Lunas in New Mexico, have cost Meta over $2 billion or so, claims Meta's website. My point is, what is Meta's WhatsApp really opposing? It is against storing data, or is it concerned about alleged breach of privacy? Now, we told you about WhatsApp's claims on privacy. Let me tell you about what happened in 2021. The company came up with a new privacy policy. This policy, it mentioned data sharing with its parent company, Meta. It did not say how Meta would use the user data. WhatsApp users were not given a choice as to whether or not they would like to share their data. WhatsApp said in order to continue using its service, users must accept the privacy policy. In Europe, though, WhatsApp had picked a different tone. There, the users could choose to reject this policy. Indians were not extended that choice. Instead, they were put on a deadline. Accept the policy by such and such date, or your app will have limited functionality. You won't be able to read messages or send them. Then what good is WhatsApp? The platform became the center of user fury. In 2023, WhatsApp clarified. It said Indians did have the choice to not accept the new policy. Was it always part of the plan? Or was WhatsApp forced to stand down? Later that year, India passed the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. The law transformed India's privacy and data protection compliance landscape. Tech companies were mandated by law to appoint a data protection officer, hire an independent data auditor, and also run assessments to protect data. Why would India pass this law if it wasn't serious about protecting user data? Does WhatsApp's argument against India's IT rules have legs to stand on? Also, can WhatsApp really afford to leave India? WhatsApp has over 480 million users in India. 480 million. That's more than any other country. In its home country, the United States, WhatsApp has 79 million users. There are 118 million users in Brazil. Indonesia, 84 million. 60 million in Mexico, 49 million in Germany. Italy has 36 million WhatsApp users. India has over 480 million WhatsApp users. Do you see the margin there? So can WhatsApp afford to leave India? I don't know if you know this, but WhatsApp has been Meta's most expensive acquisition till date. Meta, which was previously called Facebook, bought WhatsApp for $19 billion in the year 2014. There was a lot of skepticism, a lot of questions. Was WhatsApp really worth that much? Over the years, WhatsApp's user base grew exponentially. Currently, it boasts of over 3 billion monthly users, meaning over 37% of the global population uses WhatsApp at least once a month. That's a huge number. But while this number has been growing steadily, WhatsApp's revenue sources have not really been growing. WhatsApp makes money by enabling businesses and brands to engage with potential customers. Businesses can also put ads on platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Then, Meta enables the user to click on the ad and inquire more about the product or place an order through WhatsApp. You must have seen those messages that say, click to WhatsApp the business. In India, WhatsApp's largest market. At an event last year, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said, and I'm quoting here, India is a country that's at the forefront. You're leading the world in terms of how people and businesses have embraced messaging. Reports say that in India alone, WhatsApp is generating a revenue of $1 billion. Can WhatsApp risk exiting India? Also, what happens if WhatsApp does exit India? I told you about WhatsApp's privacy policy controversy of 2011. Did you know around the same time, the downloads for other messaging apps like Signal and Telegram went up? Of course, WhatsApp's exit, if it happens, will not be pleasant for the company or its users. But it's not like the users in India do not have other options, other messaging platforms that they can switch to. Now coming back to what's happening in the Delhi High Court. The bench has listed the petition for hearing on the 14th of August. And with regard to WhatsApp's privacy argument, the bench has said that privacy rights are not absolute and somewhere it has to be balanced. Are American campus protesters Nazi? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants you to believe that, according to him, all those voicing their support for Gazans are anti-Semitic, Nazis. Is that really how it works? Does supporting the people of Gaza automatically make you anti-Semitic? Students of prestigious American institutions who've been protesting in support of Palestine face these heavy accusations. One such student is Achintya Sivalingan. She is an Indian origin student of the prestigious Princeton University, or should I say she was, because now she's been arrested and banned from the campus. What was her crime? She decided to voice her opinion. She participated in the university protests. She set up tents inside the university campus along with others. In a matter of minutes, she was arrested. Her fellow student Hassan Saeed was also picked up. Sivalingan is one of many students in the United States who have come out to protest in the last 2 weeks. These young protesters have only been highlighting facts. It's true that over 34,000 Gazans have died, and it's only human to sympathize with them or to call for peace. What do these students want? Just an end to the war in Gaza. They've been calling for a ceasefire. They've been asking their institutes to stop funding Israeli companies that profit from the war. They want their government to stop arming Israel with more weapons, the same weapons that are driving the war. Does that make them anti-Semitic? Now, Netanyahu has directly drawn a parallel between the student protesters and Nazis. This has led to two fallouts. Number one, where is the space for your opinion in this war? As long as your expression isn't threatening anybody else, shouldn't you have the right to voice your opinion? Some Jewish students have come out to say they're scared to enter university campuses amid the protests. Yes, no student should be made to feel that way when entering an institution. But does that justify completely shutting out others? Isn't it the university's responsibility to ensure the safety of students while making space for peaceful protests and freedom of expression? These are young and sharp minds that we're talking about here. But they're the best in the United States. Can you expect them to have no political opinions whatsoever? These same students may become American lawmakers tomorrow. They will likely be a part of the judiciary, executive, legislature and media. Which brings me to the second fallout. With his comments, Prime Minister Netanyahu is risking to lose these people's support. For the longest time, the wider view in the United States has been pro-Israel. New York is home to the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. The community there is 2 million strong. It may as well be the safest place for Jews in the world after Israel, of course. But the question is not of safety, it is of empathy. What is happening in Gaza has resonated with a lot of people. They see stories of thousands dying, starving, a baby being born out of a dead mother's womb, of mass graves, of hospital raids, of people losing their loved ones in their homes. So do you really expect them not to sympathize with those suffering or call for peace? Does that really make them Nazis? Moving on now, let's shift our focus to India, where the second phase of voting began today. Almost 1 billion people are eligible to vote in the world's biggest election. Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led BJP is seeking a record third term on the back of economic records, welfare measures and national pride. It helps that Prime Minister Modi is also the most popular leader in India. Surveys say he will easily win a comfortable majority. Meanwhile, opposition parties that have come together for a mega alliance have been focused on promising more handouts and affirmative action. The hotly contested polls saw both Prime Minister Modi and his rivals focus on several hot-button issues. But in the lead-up to the second phase of voting, there was one issue that was perhaps overshadowed the others. It was around wealth redistribution and inheritance tax. On Wednesday, we told you all about the political slugfest that erupted after veteran Congress party leader Sam Pitroda suggested a US-style inheritance tax in India. Pitroda, who is based in the United States, gave an interview highlighting the United States tax as an example of redistributive policy to tackle inequality. In response, the BJP, led by Prime Minister Modi, said that the comments are evidence of the opposition's plans to rob the middle class. In election rallies stretching from Rajasthan to West Bengal, Prime Minister Modi had alleged the Congress party will take wealth away from those who have it and give it to their support base of minority groups, which include some of the country's lowest castes and tribes. On Thursday, Prime Minister Modi said at a rally in Uttar Pradesh that Congress would take away 55% of an individual's wealth after the death of their parents and grandparents.
आपके पैसों को उनकी वोट बैंक को मजबूत करने के लिए उनमें खैरात कर दिया जाएगा। भाइयों बहनों, क्या आपकी कमाई हुई पूंजी किसी को लूटने देंगे? क्या आप लेने देंगे? क्या
Now on Friday, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also weighed in. Nirmala Sitharaman said that an inheritance tax directly hits the middle class or the aspirational class. She highlighted how these are the groups that work hard and the sweat and toil of theirs is saved in small savings here and there.
Targeting people who are wealth creators for this country. They work hard, they create money, they create value, they employ people. So this is a clear ploy that they'll safeguard their own interests, but I'm sorry, people of India will have to keep giving away the earnings from their sweat and toil. Absolutely convoluted, and this cannot be supported.
While many countries, including the United States, UK, Japan and others impose taxes on inheritance, there is no such tax in India. Inheritance taxes were abolished in India back in 1985 by a Congress-led government at the time, under former PM Rajiv Gandhi. The Congress national government had removed estate duty, which was a form of levy that was imposed on inherited, movable and immovable assets. Prime Minister Modi alleged that Rajiv Gandhi abolished the tax after his mother and ex-Prime Minister Indira Gandhi passed away to save her wealth from going to the government. Prime Minister Modi said that the Gandhi family benefited from the abolition of the estate duty. Now, it wants to bring back the levy. But what does Congress have to say about these allegations? In the immediate aftermath, the Congress party distanced itself from Sam Pitroda's comments, saying that he was speaking in his personal capacity and not giving the party's official view. The Congress has denied the BJP's allegations. They say Prime Minister Modi and his Bharatiya Janata Party are misstating pledges made in the manifesto. So what does the Congress manifesto state? It pledges to undertake a comprehensive survey to determine the socio-economic conditions of lower caste groups and strengthen its affirmative action policy. It does not mention wealth distribution or inheritance tax. But political arm wrestling aside, can any government take over private property in India? On Wednesday, the Supreme Court of India took up the debate in a hearing on interpretation of wealth distribution, particularly when talking about private property and its relation to common good. A 9-judge bench led by Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud took up at least 16 petitions in court. The Apex Court of India said that it will not adhere to a 1977 case that gave a Marxian interpretation of wealth distribution. What was the Supreme Court talking about? Now, the case before the Supreme Court dates back to 1986 when the Maharashtra government tweaked Housing and Area Development Act, allowing Mumbai's Repair and Reconstruction Board to acquire certain cessed properties for restoration purposes with the consent of 70% of the residents. The amendment cited had Article 39, Section B of the Constitution that says the ownership and control of the material resources of the community are so distributed as best to subserve the common good. Landowners challenged the amendment. They said it gave untethered power to the board to forcibly take over residential complexes. After years of hearings at different levels, the matter reached the Supreme Court last year. That's the matter that was heard on Wednesday. The key question before the court was, can the government take over private property? The Maharashtra government had cited Article 39 Section B and Article 31 Section C of the Indian Constitution. Both are what is known as directive principles of state policy. These are principles fundamental for governance of the country. These are not justiciable, meaning they are not subject to trial in a court. Hearing the matter on Wednesday, the Chief Justice of India cautioned against going as far as the Marxist interpretation of wealth distribution. Now, what does the Marxist view state? Everything belongs to the state and the community. What is the capitalist view? It stresses the importance of individual rights. Well, in India, there is a Gandhian view. It justifies holding of resources in trust in order to protect intergenerational equity. While that hearing remained inconclusive and will continue next week, inheritance and wealth distribution have taken center stage in India. As for why this has become such a big issue, here's what you should know. In Indian culture, inheritance carries massive significance, especially in marriage, where women are often gifted gold jewelry. Land and property are also prized and passed through families from one generation to the next. While inheritance tax has been debated for over a decade, economists say that it's not necessarily appropriate in a country like India, where per capita income levels are already low. Economists say that it may discourage wealth growth. Sudhir Kapadia, a tax expert at EY India, told news outlet Bloomberg that while it's a good thing that tax policy is being discussed in Indian politics, an inheritance tax wouldn't be suitable for India. It is levied in developed nations where the stock of wealth has reached a particular point. India is yet to reach that stage. All right, let's also take a look at some of the other stories that we've lined up for you on the show tonight. The Chinese have found a new naval outpost. It is now operating from the Ream naval base in Cambodia. Stay tuned for that report. The United States has imposed sanctions on over a dozen companies, including 3 Indian companies. It says these companies and vessels have played a central role in facilitating and financing the clandestine sale of Iranian UAVs to Russia's war in Ukraine. We'll get you the details of this on the show tonight. The Buckingham Palace is undertaking a rigorous review of the funeral plans for King Charles III. This comes after news of his cancer diagnosis. We will get you the story in a few minutes. Also on the show, artificial intelligence has helped discover the final resting place of Plato. We will get you the details of this fascinating discovery soon. Has China found a new naval outpost? Is Chinese military expanding its footprint in Southeast Asia? Chinese Navy vessels have once again been spotted at Cambodia's Ream base. This is a base that is being upgraded. Guess who's bankrolling the upgrade? China. In the last 4 months, Chinese warships have been spotted at this Cambodian base, at least on 2 occasions. So what kind of deal did China strike? We modernize your facility, pay for the upgradation. In return, you let us use the Ream base. Chinese warships first visited Ream in December. At the time, Cambodia's Defense Minister, Tay visited the vessel. Accompanying him was Tay Ban, the minister's father, who is also a Cambodian general and has served as the country's deputy prime minister. The visit of the Chinese warships to Cambodia's Ream coincided with the visit of a top Chinese general to Cambodia's capital. Upon landing, this general hailed China-Cambodia as, and I'm quoting here, true ironclad friends. Let's get back to the base in Ream. Earlier, it was only capable of hosting small petrol vessels. But now, big Chinese warships are docking here, meaning that the facility has already been expanded. Chances are this upgraded base is on the verge of completion. Experts are worried. They say the upgraded base exceeds Cambodia's current requirement. that the country does not require a base so huge. Probably China does. Experts believe China could possibly be building or could have already built a facility at the base for its exclusive use. Don't forget in which part of the world all of this is happening. This is the WION Naval Base. Its location is extremely strategic. As you can see, this base is near the south tip of Cambodia. From this base, China gets to oversee the Gulf of Thailand. Also, WION allows Chinese Navy to dock much closer to the South China Sea. China, as expected, denies any foul play. It claims the base in Cambodia is an aid project. In other words, China is helping a friend upgrade its defense facility. Ask yourself this though, when was the last time Chinese aid was benevolent? When was the last time China worked on a base or a port without an ulterior motive? In 2022, the spokesperson for Chinese Defense Ministry said, I'm quoting here, certain media have been continuously hyping up the normal exchanges and cooperation between China and Cambodia with ulterior motive. But guess who has ulterior motives in the South China Sea? In February, senior US officials met Cambodian Prime Minister Han Mane. US expressed serious concerns about what's happening in WION. What are Cambodian officials saying? Cambodia denies that the upgraded facility will be used by China as a naval base. Officials have time and again pointed at Cambodian constitution. It bars foreign military bases on Cambodian territory. But here are some facts that the two countries cannot deny. Ties between them have grown. Cambodia and China now hold joint drills, joint exercises, personal training. Former Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen, who had called China evil in 1988, described ties with China as ironclad in 2016. Also, here's something you must note. While there is no way to know what really is the arrangement at the WION base, even if a possible deal allows regular access to Chinese military and not permanent access, that should be good enough for the People's Liberation Army. Analysts point out the WION could help the PLA's navy in resupply missions. And should a war break out in the South China Sea, WION could be an additional access for attack. Beijing, as you know, claims almost all of the South China Sea. It claims the islands, the energy reserves, the reefs, the sandbank. A base close to the South China Sea, it's a huge advantage for China. So far on paper, Beijing has just one overseas military base. It's in Djibouti in East Africa. There, Chinese troops are permanently stationed. But like we keep showing you, Xi Jinping's China controls multiple ports around the world. It has access to multiple ports, even though the levels of this access may vary. What's the equation at WION? What did China take in exchange for money? These are questions we must keep asking. Now, for our next story, I want to begin by asking, who made the United States of America police of the world? I ask this because the United States has recently imposed sanctions on 3 Indian firms for allegedly engaging in illicit trade with Iran. You heard that right. On Thursday, the United States, in a coordinated effort with the UK and Canada, launched a new wave of sanctions on Iran. It's part of a broader effort to target Iran's drone and missile industries in the aftermath of the Iranian attack on Israel earlier this month. The sweeping effort targets over a dozen entities, individuals, as well as vessels used to support the manufacture and sale of Iran's drones, as well as tankers used to transport oil. Simply put, the West is trying to punish Iran with these sanctions. In an official statement, the US Department of Treasury said, I'm quoting here, these companies, individuals and vessels have played a central role in facilitating and financing the clandestine sale of Iranian UAVs to Russia's war in Ukraine. Now, which Indian companies have been affected by the latest sanctions? 3 Indian companies have been affected. They are Zen Shipping, Port India Private Limited and Sea Art Ship Management, OPC Private Limited. Their crime? for supporting Sahara Thunder, a company that relies on a vast shipping network involved in sale and shipment of Iranian commodities on behalf of Iran's Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces Logistics to multiple jurisdictions that includes the People's Republic of China, Russia and Venezuela. Hitting out at Iran, the United States said that its Ministry of Defense continues to destabilize the region and world with its support to Russia's war in Ukraine, unprecedented attack on Israel and proliferation of UAVs as well as other dangerous military hardware to terrorist proxies. The sanctions follow the United States warnings. Earlier this month, Washington warned that it would impose new sanctions on Iran following its retaliatory attack on Israel. But these sanctions are not new. The United States has always taken such measures against entities that it deems to be violating its sanctions on Iran. In fact, the United States has been imposing sanctions on Iran since 1979, and the scope and severity of these sanctions have only increased over time. This has led to a situation where the United States has effectively isolated Iran from the global economy, making it difficult for the Islamic Republic from engaging in legitimate trade and commerce. The recent sanctions are part of a broader effort by the United States, to put pressure on Iran and its trading partners. But here's the thing. These sanctions have negatively affected entities in business. Critics argue that these actions are not only unfair but also counterproductive as they harm businesses and individuals who are merely trying to engage in legitimate trade. Businesses in India have the right to choose their business partners. It's not the responsibility of any other country to dictate or influence these decisions. For instance, while the United States may not have cordial relations with Iran, India does. New Delhi has a good relationship with Tehran. Similarly, India also has good relations with Washington. But it does not try to control whom the United States does business with. You do not see India imposing sanctions on US businesses. Then is it fair for the United States to act as the moral compass of the world? Now, in the quiet quarters of Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere is one of deep concern and urgency. Why? Because preparations are underway for King Charles III's funeral. Let me clarify, the king is very much alive. However, the king is battling a serious health crisis caused by an undisclosed type of cancer, the news of which was first made public last month. As is the case always, the royal family has been tight-lipped about the type of cancer and treatment. However, reports now say the king's deteriorating health, it's triggered an urgent review of the royal funeral plans known as Operation Menai Bridge. Operation Menai Bridge is the code name for the royal funeral preparations. I must mention that these plans were initiated right after Queen Elizabeth II's funeral in September 2022. They are now being updated. What has triggered this? The royal family isn't known for divulging such details, but as per close friends with knowledge of the matter, the most common response to queries on the king's health have been that, and I'm quoting here, it's not good. And so, these plans are now under rigorous review to ensure they can be implemented swiftly if needed. The adjustment of these plans, though procedural, are also a poignant reminder of the monarch's frailty. In fact, a close confidant revealed on condition of anonymity that the king's health is in fact, and I'm quoting, much worse than what's publicly known. These confidential accounts point to a stark contrast to the palace's controlled statements. As the palace reviews and updates Operation Menai Bridge, it's Prince William who's got the jitters. For obvious reasons, this has had a profound impact on the royal couple, Prince William and Kate Middleton. Already contending with Kate Middleton's own cancer diagnosis, the couple faces the daunting reality of potentially ascending to the throne under distressing circumstances and perhaps a lot sooner than they expected. Reports suggest that Prince and Princess of Wales are grappling with intense anxiety compounded by their desire to shield their young children from the public eye during this tumultuous period. The level of urgency and discretion with which the situation is being handled further highlights the severity of King Charles's health challenges. The royal family is once again faced with the challenges of navigating the complexities of health, duty, and public expectations. Dogs are a man's best friends, so the saying goes, and it's indeed true. What happened in the Spanish hospital is proof. One fine day, the patients were met with a furry surprise. Therapy dogs came to visit patients in the ICU. Soon, happy scenes unfolded, some even shed tears of joy. More of this wholesomeness in our next report.
It was a regular day at Barcelona's Hospital del Mar. Joel Bueno lay in his bed in an intensive care unit. His spirits were low, but then something unexpected happened. He was met by two visitors. One was Vida, another was Lou. Both had thick black manes. Their eyes had nothing but love for Bueno, even though they were meeting for the first time. One of the two pups hopped onto Bueno's bed and looked at him with affection. What was Bueno's response? Listen to it yourself.
When she came with the dog, she placed it here and I started crying because I remembered mine who also sits with me. And yes, you like it, to have a living being that feels for you more than anything in the world because they give it all for you, regardless how you behave with them. And they are super loyal. Just look. One of them snuggled in here, the other one here. And as I said, they don't know you, but they just give you this love that does not expect anything in return.
It was like the grim ICU lit up with joy all of a sudden. Vida and Lou are therapy dogs. They visit patients like Joel Bueno in hospitals as part of a trial project. This project was launched by Barcelona's Hospital del Mar and Affinity Foundation. It focuses on improving the emotional well-being of ICU patients. From the looks of it, the project is expected to be a hit. Patients in the program receive 2 visits each week of 15 to 20 minutes each. Experts then assess the impact of the dog visits. Here's what experts have to say.
In the end, time at ICU feels very long. Obviously, patients are very worried about their physical and emotional situation, so therapy like this helps them and takes a bit of stress off them. The research is based on taking saliva samples from the patients before and after the therapy with animals and to see whether some substances related to stress such as cortisol are reduced and whether there are substances related to well-being such as oxytocin, serotonin or derivatives of tryptophan.
As for Bueno, he has no doubts about the benefits of the trial. According to him, just the thought that some dogs might pop by for a visit is an immediate morale boost. It's not just the patients who feel this way. Many members of staff also enjoy having the pooches around after slugging in the high-octane emergency ward. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And with that, it's time now for a short break. Don't go anywhere. Lots lined up for you on the other side.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
This week on the West Asia Post, it's 200 days of the Israel-Hamas war. Hamas has thrown an open challenge to the Israeli forces. The Israeli military head has quit over the 7th October Hamas attack, amid a growing rift within the Israeli administration. Also on the show, Iran issues a fresh warning. We look at why a North Korean delegation's visit to Iran is raising eyebrows. All this and much more. Catch the West Asia Post, only on WION. World is One.
Togo's constitutional changes trigger popular protests after lawmakers approve reforms that may extend the 19-year rule of President Faure Gnassingbe. South Africa marks 30 years since its first post-apartheid election as the nation marks Freedom Day on April 27th, with polls to be held 2 days after defeat. And meet Pelumi Nubi, a Nigerian woman who completed a road trip from London to Lagos to promote a safe and borderless Africa. Watch World of Africa at these times, only on WION. World is One.
Is your milk safe? Because the US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, found traces of bird flu virus in retail milk in the United States. On Tuesday, the FDA said that fragments of bird flu virus had been detected in some samples of pasteurized milk in the United States. While the FDA maintains that the milk is safe to drink, it notes that it is still waiting on results to confirm this. They say that the risk to public remains low. The FDA announcement comes amid a national outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza, or HPAI. It comes less than a month after an outbreak of the H5N1 strain of bird flu was found for the first time in herds of dairy cows in several states. Since then, it has been detected in herds in 8 states. But experts are not surprised. They say that if you test most milk, you will find E. coli, listeria and other things in it too. But they'd all be dead. You see, pasteurization doesn't take them out, it just kills them. But these dead particles are unlikely to cause a person to get sick. But a probe is underway. The FDA has been working with the Centers for Disease Control and the US Department of Agriculture to investigate this outbreak. The fragments of virus were found while testing samples of pasteurized milk. The testing method, called PCR testing, it looks for bits of genetic material. But it's worth noting, a positive result doesn't mean that live infectious virus has been found. FDA says, and I'm quoting here, to date we have seen nothing that would change our assessment that the commercial milk supply is safe. So what is FDA testing? Specifically, it is testing whether pasteurization inactivates bird flu in cow milk. As part of its testing, it will use so-called egg inoculation tests, which is considered to be the gold standard of determining if a sample is infectious. It involves injecting a chicken egg with a small amount of infected milk and monitoring it to see if active virus begins to replicate. The FDA has promised that the results will be available in the next few days to weeks. Till the results come out, the FDA said that it is also recommended that milk producers take precautions when discarding milk from sick cows so that the discarded milk does not become a source of spread. So far, one person has been infected during the current outbreak. The person, a dairy worker in Texas, had a mild case and only developed conjunctivitis or pink eye. The Center for Disease Control is monitoring the situation for signs of any unusual illness. They say they have not seen any beyond the Texas case. Still, the virus remains a cause of concern among health officials. Remember, the bird flu virus particularly has high mortality rate of around 50%. Bird flu doesn't spread easily from person to person, but there's worry that it could mutate as it spreads among cows to a version that spreads more easily among people. So far, it hasn't happened. For now, we'll be watching these developments closely. Now, where exactly was Plato buried? Well, researchers now have an answer. The mystery of the great philosopher's final resting place has been solved. Up until now, conflicting accounts existed over his final years and death around 348 BC. But now Italian researchers have discovered that Plato was buried in the garden of his academy in Athens near a sacred shrine. How did they uncover this? Using artificial intelligence. You see, the exact location was preserved on charred pieces of papyrus. This scroll is more than 2,000 years old. It was recovered in the Herculaneum, an ancient Roman town that's located near Pompeii. This place is some 200 kilometers south of Rome. How did it get charred? Because the whole town was annihilated in 79 AD after the eruption of Mount Vesuvius volcano. The scroll was difficult to decipher, but with advancements in technology, researchers were able to read the ancient papyrus. They used cutting-edge techniques including infrared and ultraviolet optical imaging, thermal imaging, and tomography. That papyrus is now kept at the National Library of Naples. So far, researchers have identified 1,000 words. That's roughly 30% of the text. But it has finally solved the mystery of Plato's tomb. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. We will see you next week with a new look, same old spirit. Here's unveiling the new look of Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The biggest democratic exercise on the planet ever.